the psalmist, David. So when you understand that once you start, you see yourself sitting in the God seat in triple darkness in the middle of nowhere, and you recognize and observe that position. You sitting in the center of creation. That's the mindset. You sitting in the center of creation and you creating everything. Okay, now you would simplify the totality of creation. You got to bring it into your 3D model of yourself. I'm God pretending to be Rod. How am I supposed to behave as God in this 3D realm? This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to rewrite who the system told me to be. I'm not going to be Rod. I'm going to be Morpheus Mysticus Magus. Morpheus Mysticus Magus is our chemical name that was adopted by the character Rod in order to break free from the character Rod and become the embodiment of the liberating mind that I want to be, so that I can help other people liberate their mind. So more.
All right, peace to the family out there. We got a great show for you tonight. The brother here is returning to the show every time he comes through. It's an amazing show. He has amazing slides and amazing discussion. Want to welcome back to the platform my brother Ani Osaru. Welcome back, my brother.
No, it's great to be back, brother, and it's always a pleasure to grace your platform and chop up on these matters that we need to get understood. And I appreciate you for having me.
Yo, I just want to make sure, because I changed your last name to an A, but I see at the bottom of your screen it has an O on it. Osaru, you see that?
Yes, it's supposed to be an O. It's Osaru.
I thought, okay.
And that's funny because way back in the day, a lot of people know me as Oni because I changed my name, I think like 2018, from Oni with an O to Ani, based on a lecture that our brother, what's the brother that do the trips to Egypt?
Ashwa
Kwesi. He did a lecture on Ani. And I kind of heard it wrong, you know, way back when I started my channel. I thought he said Oni, but he, you know how we have that Southern dialect. He really meant Ani when he was pronunciating the word. And Ani is one of the priests for the Book of the Dead. So It's Ani Osaru. Yes, sir.
Okay, got it, my brother. All right. Well, hey, listen. Today's show is a great show in the sense that I'm glad that I got somebody who is a true student of Bobby Hemmitt. And when I seen this clip, I thought about you immediately. I was like, damn, I got to reach out to my brother and see if he's able to build on this. And I had called you and you was like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. So I want to start the show off with this clip, family. This clip is from Transatlantic Productions. You could go to their YouTube channel. They have the full video. They pieced a lot of videos from Bobby together, and the full video is about 10 hours. So you can go to their YouTube page. It's Transatlantic Productions. Rest in peace to the brother Minister Clemson Brown. He did a lot of classic interviews with Bobby Hemmitt back in the 90s, early 2000s. And this is one of them. And that's his page. So let's make sure we all support. Go to the page to see the full video. But we're going to start this thing out. I thought I had, oh, hold on. I got to cue it, y'all. I thought I had it queued. Here we go. And we're going to start this thing out with the living legend. With the living legend, Bobby Hemmitt. Let me turn this down a little bit. All right, let's go.
I'm holding up that same tree of life in the temple of Komombo in Egypt. Right. Also, too. The plan of the Moors was to civilize a semi-barbaric people, or make a people that halfway civilized, so we can be the benefit of this particular information once we come and get set up in America, which is also prophesied in the Greek story, Jason and the Argonauts, which this story, the guy Apollonius was the curator or the director of the Library of Alexandria. Then all of a sudden, this story, Jason of the Argonaut, where he take the best of the Africans, put them in a boat to sail to the ends of the earth at a land called Caucasus to get the golden fleece, which is a lamb's wool in Christ with the lamb's wool, a woolen fleece. It's called the woolen fleece or the golden fleece. And when you translate all that, it means melanin. And it also means the Christ. So shall the sun, as the sun rises in the east, so shall the Son of Man rise in the west, which is the Christ. The Son of Man is the Son in man. The hidden sun, or the black sun, which is the manifestation or the crystallization of melanin in a people in the West. The Hermetic text, which is the prophetic text, that is assigned to Asclepius. And Asclepius, as you know, is the god Tahuti. No, excuse me. Asclepius is the god and the physician Imhotep. And Imhotep, as you know, is Asclepius, who the Greeks prayed to at the Hippocratic oath as Asclepius. In the Hermetic text, they got a whole sermon, the perfect sermon of Asclepius. And in there is the prophecy of how he was going to go into slavery. How Egypt, which is the temple of all the gods, would become one big graveyard. And how the pious man, which is righteous man, would be looked on as impious. And how the impious man, which is the wicked man, will be considered pious, righteous. And how the weak man will be considered strong, and the strong man will be considered weak. And how everybody would look up to the wicked man will be considered noble. And how the righteous and pious man will be treated like a common criminal. And all of these people in this faraway land will look like Egyptians. They will have the mind of another race.
Right, that's all in prophecy.
That's all in the prophecy. Imhotep starts crying. He said, will we ever get up out of this? And Tahuti, who is the person that Imhotep is divining to, giving him this spiritual knowledge, say, yeah, Maya will be established. He said, where? He said, there will be a land that's not established yet, that all nations will speed towards in all types of transportation to get there. And in that land, there will be an extremities or an appendage or an annex of Egyptians that will be in that land. And they will establish Maya.
No.
Oh man, what a clip, huh? What a clip, what a clip, what a clip.
It's
Well,
amazing.
huh?
I said it was amazing. It's amazing. That's
Yeah.
one of the things that blew my mind listening to Bobby, hearing him, you know, break that down and the Black American lineage here. You know, it's a mixture, amalgamation, you know, of DNA and genetics. And from an esoteric perspective, the Argonauts taking sail is the same thing when he was saying that nations would flee, or different types of African genetics or other genetics of people will come to a land and will amalgamate and cause a ethnogenesis, the birth of new people. But these people will go through these things, a lot of extremities, and that hymn from Hermetica is exactly as he quoted. He didn't take nothing. I read Hermetica 2017, and I found that piece he was speaking of when Imhotep was speaking to Thoth or Jehudi, and that was exactly how it everything Bobby said, it was exactly how it was in the book or what he's expressing. So the concept, what he's speaking of, Jason, because he compared it as a alchemical process. We went through an alchemical process. The word Jason, you can look at it etymologically. You can piece it as Jah and sun, and Jah meaning black, the black sun, which is inside of us. Which in America you have Tezcatlipoca. Tezcatlipoca is the black sun. And Jason is representative in Vedic astrology as the Atmakarka, the soul planet in your chart. And I'm going to break all of that down from an astrological perspective and bring it full circle, you know, how it connects to the esoteric whole perspective. So the Argonaut story is like the Greek version of the Avengers. When you really read in detail what happened with Jason and the Argonauts, is very scholarly how they piece this thing together, but it is speaking about the soul and the different grahas, the planets. The Argonauts are the grahas, the planets that our soul goes through in our life, and how we take on these different frequencies to mold ourselves to what we are, and we all have a different path of how we're molded through these frequencies. So
You know,
go ahead.
no, you know, I asked this question before to somebody. Just watching videos. You know, the people who are over there in Egypt now, they often complain about the blacks in America, and they said, "What is your obsession with continuing to tell people that you are Egyptian?" They're like, "Why are these niggas so obsessed with being Egyptian over there?" And if you look at it, why in this landmass so many people want to study Kemet? Like when you go to other landmasses, people aren't they're more in tune to their homeland. We're in tune to our homeland, but we're also got our eyes over there, and all these teachers came before us, whether it's Dr. York, Bobby Hemmitt, Delbert Blair, they keep talking about Kemet. So a lot of people are like, yo, why are these American niggas so fascinated with Kemet? And when I hear Bobby say what he say and hear saying what you say, it all makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
We have evidence of genetic markers that a great percentage of Black Americans do have Ramesses II in our DNA. And that's because you can get, from scholarly people who deny that, get a book called God Wills the Negro by Theodore P. Ford, an ethnologist who looked at the original invasions of Egypt. The last people who invaded Egypt was the Arabs. So that's why the people over there in Egypt right now look like them people. But that wasn't who the original people. You had the Ptolemy that invaded before then, and then you had the Mongolians and all these other people that was coming in before then. So we got hit many times in Kemet. And what happened, if you read the book, they show a map of how we migrated out of Kemet in the last invasion, and we came and settled mostly on the west coast of Africa. Now, a lot of people, you know, they get into the whole, nobody was slaves or there wasn't no African. Let me tell you something. Even if you believe that, I'm not here to prove that or disprove that. African people, melanated people, have been selling the oceans for a very long time. We've been selling the seven seas. We were the first people to sell the seven seas. Matter of fact, the Moors had control of the trade routes in the upper areas of North Africa. The pillars of, what do you call it? The pillars of, I forgot the name of it, but it's right above North Africa in that Italy region. They had control of that for a long time. So we were selling to the Americas. There's stories about Abu Khari, you know, the uncle of Mansa Musa, that was taking ships over to America. And what will happen if the indigenous Americans were there with their different tribes, and you got other people sailing for a long journey to come over to America? Some of them amalgamated. Bloodlines, lineages were fused. And then what happened? You had the invasion, you know, of the Europeans that came in, and then some of them amalgamated into that bloodline too. But in the book, it details that a lot of the original Kemetic Egyptians came directly from West Africa to the Americas. And it shows the pathways. It literally gives you a map, a time period, and everything of when it happened. So much so that the government came and confiscated those books in 1933 and took them off the shelves in the library. It didn't come back out into Michigan University in the 1990s, where they brought it back out. And I know because I got one of the original Michigan University copies, and it has the date stamped and everything when they brought the book back out. So in the book is detailing that he went to Chicago and he took pictures of a bunch of black American women, and he held it up to the Kemetic women, and they had the same exact phenotypes, genetic markers as far as everything of how your face looks. It was an exact match, and he shows you that in the book. Some of the mummies, he was comparing it to different male faces, black American faces. So we definitely have a lineage tracing back to Kemet. This isn't just us loving Kemet, and of course we have that spirit of rebelling against oppression and having higher consciousness. And what we seek has always been Black Americans looking for higher consciousness that inspired most of the world. But we also have the genetics to prove it as well.
Indeed. You know, another video I seen of Bobby's, it might have been on that same video where he talked about in some of the pre-dynastic temples. I don't know if it was the temple of Dendera or one of those pre-dynastic temples. There was Hebrew writings, evidence of Hebrew writings in the temples. And once again, I remember the brothers used to beef in the early 2000s, Kemet versus the Hebrews. What is it about? What is the secret connection between Black people, Kemet, and Hebrew? It's got to be some type of connection going on there, even though we think they're all separate from each other.
Well, from what I understand, some of the priesthoods and lineages were in the Canaanite areas from Kemet, and some of the Canaanite priesthoods and different lineages came through back from Kemet. So those areas were like satellites of the same beliefs. They had a same structured belief system. When you are in different regions at a certain amount of time, you develop a different syntax. There's the epistemological difference of you living in a certain space for a certain period of time. That's how different languages form. Then other languages die. They're called dead languages. We had a lot of dead languages because we evolved out of other languages. So the Hebrew, now the story of the Hebrews as slaves in Kemet, I don't believe that's true.
Right.
We don't have no real evidence of that. And I don't believe that these Hebrews, whoever they try to say or make the connection to it, were dragging big 1,000-ton blocks, to build the pyramids and all of that like that. That doesn't make sense. We had advanced alchemy. We had processes that we forgot these processes of how we use alchemy to build these great civilizations like Tartaria and other civilizations. Even the ones in Mexico and South America and these other things, we had the same technology, spiritual technology that came from within. They say that we built Kemet in our mind, in the astral plane, before we transferred it into the physical plane. So we were already building it, meditating together, building the temple in the mind before we transferred it here. That's some real amazing stuff to understand and know about.
No, definitely. And another thing that they talked about, Bobby talked about in this clip, and I know you did a video on it in the past, and I know you got a presentation, but before you get to that, this idea of the Black Sun.
Yes.
And the Black Sun, more and more research, and the Black Sun is being talked about more this year than I've heard in the previous 10 years. What are some signs we got right now in 2025 that this Black Sun is becoming more active? What are some signs that we're seeing right now?
We just saw the largest solar flare ever since the Carrington event happened like a week or two ago. Anything, Bobby told you, anything that's happening on the physical level is happening on the inner level. So the Black Sun is the quantum reflection of the sun that we have here. Now, they believe there's different, I gave at the end of my last lecture, the different tiers of Sirius. Sirius A, Sirius B, Sirius C. Sirius B is always referred to as the black sun. Sirius A is the Sirius that we see with the naked eye. We can see it sometimes out there, but there's no physical, manifestation of it. They just know where it's at. And then you have Sirius C, that will be the star of the future. It's this future star that, like the Hebrews or the Judaic Christian faith speak about the new kingdom that's to come.
Mm-hmm.
Earth, before it became a solidified solid planet, used to be a star. Get a research on books speaking about the electric universe, how the first brown dwarf stars, just like Saturn was a brown dwarf star that actually spit out the rest of the planets in these things in containers called plasmic shells. Each star or each planet was a star that eventually evolved into what we call cymatic sentient beings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe none of those planets out there are solid. I don't think that Elon Musk is taking any of his Star X link ships, whatever it's called, to any of those places. These places are reflective of inner realms that's inside of us. And they say that we derive from the Syrian realm of the black sun. That's where we originated. So I look at it as a parallel, multi-dimensional area of a universe that prior of physical life here, these people still understood or could be reflective on what we were as energetic beings in this non-physical realm. And they're giving us mythological stories and conceptions on how we're still tied to this realm within us based on these spiritual aspects or these conditionings alchemically that happen through transference of frequencies through these planets. So it's reflective inwardly, but people are trying to get the black sun and make it outwardly. Now, they do say that our planet has a core. The core is also called the black sun and some of the hollow earth mysteries. You get into the Nordic aspect and you get into understanding the deep intricacies of what the Nazis were looking into. Some people will say that the black sun is a real place based on hollow earth cosmology. And if you look into some of the old Israelite cosmologies, they show a sun beneath the earth as well. But I still believe, looking at these cosmologies, they're trying to show us a spiritual blueprint on advanced understanding of physics, on how charge implosion is happening inside of us constantly with these spiritual bodies that we exist in, etherical astral bodies. The soul body they're bringing the complexities and putting it into a conceptualization of what we can understand. So yeah, the black sun is just the origin, the foundation, the area, the home station spiritually of what we come from as melanated beings.
Powerful. Let's get to this presentation you put together, my brother.
Let's get it. There we go. So like I said earlier, Jason, when Bobby was referencing in the clip about what the black sun is, Jason means Josh sun. It means black sun. It also means to heal. And melanin is a factor of healing. We should understand that. The moon is a cymatic, plasmic, sentient being. I don't even believe that the moon is solid, Brother Rich. To get deeper into the research, it gets even more interesting. I don't even believe the moon is. I used to believe that, but the deeper the mysteries, the more questionable you're gonna.
So what? Only Earth is solid? According to your research?
Yeah, I believe that as far as third dimensional states of reality, Earth is the only solid. Earth is the center of the universe in this universe, and I believe that the moon and all of the planets are plasmic, cymatic beings. I think they have a intelligence and they move in intelligence through patterns of how there's a transference of energy states to another. And this is all backed by quantum physics. You know, so if I can't scholarly prove it, there's nobody really proved that we really been to the moon. I know, you know, they give you the NASA stuff, but the word NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. Did you know that?
Yeah, yeah.
Literally, the word NASA literally translated in Hebrew. So I'm gonna believe some scientific observational space, whatever you will call it. I'm trying to conceptualize it in a different way. I'm gonna believe them and them telling me what science is when their name literally means to deceive. Why would I do that? As a spiritual being, someone taught by the master teachers, why would I believe what they say? I'm gonna go into the research and see what the ancestors said. And I don't see anything saying that these things are actually physical. I see esoteric literature, which means there's deeper meanings, but we somehow like to make things physical because it makes us feel better and it makes us get a handle on things. And that's what we adapted a lot in Eurocentric centric thought span of looking at it. So from a scholarly, esoteric, and historical lens, the myth of what we're speaking about today, the Argonauts, it offers rich symbolic framework of how to interpret how our ethnogenesis happened in the formation of indigenous Black Americans as spiritually and genetically syncretic people. That's what we are. In Greek myth, Jason is supposed to gather an elite band of heroes. So he gets the best of heroes, each with unique powers, each with unique lineages. They have these powers and these unique lineages and regional affiliations, and he forms together the Argonauts, which is a collective united in their quest to recover something called the Golden Fleece, which is a symbol of divine kingship, sacred inheritance, and cosmological destiny. So similarly, the formation of the Black American identity here, particularly among those indigenous heritage, can be read as a mytho-historical convergence of desperate lineages that's forged under the pressures of colonial displacement, enslavement, and resistance. So this process mirrors what Bobby was describing from the Hermetic text of Imhotep and Thoth. It's called the Corpus Hermeticum, if anyone wants to get the book. It says in one verse, a great crater spelled Krater, means mixing bowl of souls, will be poured out in the West, forming a people who, through their suffering and initiation, will carry echoes of divine ancestors who once built Kemet and other ancient civilizations. This crater in context is not merely a philosophical vessel, but it's a metaphysical forge that I'm interpreting here. It's a symbolic container where diverse souls, diverse cultures, and bloodlines are refined into one singular alchemical being. And this aligns with the ideal that Black Americans, particularly those whose DNA spans from different continents in here indigenous to the Americans, Semitic, and some European strains, were not randomly mixed, but spiritually selected. So we were spiritually selected, forming a new iteration of ancient genius rooted in our ancestral memory. So the Argonauts, like this modern ethnogenic identity, the Argonauts represent a metaphysical cohort, not a nation formed by geography, but by destiny, called together to confront a larger oppressive structure, sort of like in the story, we'll talk about Talos and Peleus, the king that Jason is trying to steal the throne from, that guards the last power. So, like I said earlier, Jason is the Atmakarka, which is the soul principle. I'll talk about what the Vedic astrological themes is a little bit later. Each Argonaut is a planetary or spiritual function, mirroring multifaceted natures of the Black American experience. We're warriors, we're healers, we're musically inclined, were priests and priestesses, were rebels, and most importantly, were builders. We built the country. So the Argo ship becomes a symbol for the Merkaba, or the spiritual vehicle, a body, politic, and soul craft constructed to carry a collective consciousness across the astral and historical sea of oppression. So we're setting forth in America, we were put here to find the golden fleece. Now, the golden fleece does pertains to genetics, and the pineal gland is something spiritual within us to access portions of the pineal gland that needs to be activated to bring this realm into a higher tier of consciousness. Then it becomes symbolic to the reclamation of sovereignty, ancestral memory, spiritual technology, and divine identity that was systematically suppressed. So, as the Hermetic text implies, those who formed in the West through forced exile, hybridization, and resistance may be the ones predestined to restore the balance once held by ancient civilizations. So, in this light, the indigenous Black Americans is not a byproduct of trauma alone, but we're a living synthesis of sacred gnosis and heroic potential that's echoed in myth and encoded in our blood and ordained by prophecy. So, speaking of these light crafts and ships, I was doing a lecture on my Patreon. Bobby used to say that we have ships. You ever heard Bobby say that, Rich? Speaking about how we have ships, you know, how they say out there.
Oh yeah.
We got ships too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been doing a little bit more research, and I realized for every dimension we have a different ship, and it's based on sacred geometry.
Yeah.
And people who saying this is pseudoscience. I'm glad I came on this platform, because you know people pseudoscience. I'm about to conceptualize that better so we can understand that. May I do that real quick?
Yeah, real quick. That's interesting. I forgot the gentleman's name. I think he passed away. It was a white dude. What's the Robert
Temple?
Say that again?
Was it Robert Temple?
No, he talks about sacred geometry. He be on Gaia. Damn, do y'all know his name? Brother Sharif mentioned him the other day. But anyway, he talks about how each dimension has a different sound associated with it. So if you're saying each dimension has a Robert Gilbert, thank you, y'all. So if each dimension and each sound is a different sacred geometry, according to cymatics. So it's one and the same with the same thing you're saying. So each one of these symbols that we're looking at right now here will produce a different sound. So very interesting. I look forward to seeing this, my brother.
Yeah, psychoacoustics. That's why I specialize psychoacoustics and framing something called color breathing. When you do your yoga exercises, you're supposed to be honing in on specific colors, but I don't want to get too in depth and sidetrack from that. But that opens you up to these different types of merkabas to travel on different layers. They're called aeons in the Gnostic text. But anyways, from a quantum metaphysical perspective, the soul can be likened to a multi-layered energetic vehicle, a light encoded structure that carries consciousness across dimensions, just as the Argo ship carried Jason and the Argonauts across the Mythic waters. I said this aligns perfectly, because the thing that brings the warriors together, Brother Rich, is the Argo ship. And this is the ship itself is pertaining to the soul. And these Jason would be literally the solar archetype, your ego, and the other Argonauts would be the different grahas or the planets that's having an alchemical effect against your ego, just like everyone else through existence are experiencing different placements of their planets and their transits, and we're being affected in different ways. So in quantum field theory, consciousness is not localized, but is entangled with subtle energy fields with what mystics call the subtle body or the light body. You heard of that? These bodies shift in form and frequency depending on the dimension or density of reality that one occupies, much like how a ship will change structure depending on the ocean that it must traverse. Melanated beings, whose biological composition includes high melanin, By the way, the golden fleece, before it becomes the golden fleece, it was called the chrysomelnos. You get the word Christ, it's called chrysomelnos. That's the name of the golden. It's like a golden ram, but it looks like a golden sheep, more like. And he is slayed to become the golden fleece, and it's hung on a tree near a dragon. And the dragon is supposed to be the Kundalini. The tree is supposed to be representative of the Kabbalah, the tree of life, and the fleece is supposed to be representative of the spiritual attainment, the enlightenment from your soul's genetic encoding that you're supposed to obtain in this lifetime. So we're high melanin. That means we have conductivity through our neuromelanin that may possess a more sensitive interface with these fields, which allows adaptive frequency responsive Merkavas that can shift across our dream planes, in the astral realm, or even higher ancestral dimensions. So it's not pseudoscience, but it's talking about a convergence of biophysics and esoteric tradition. The Argo in this reading is a metaphor for the soul's light craft, encoded with ancestral memory, geomagnetic intelligence, and quantum navigational potential. So it's not a literal boat, but it's a vessel of initiated consciousness, a spiritual technology that's fine-tuned by the quality of the soul energy of the person and how the person can obtain dimensional awareness. Now, I want to preference this because this is going to take us a little bit left. But if you will allow me, I will give scholarship on how these ships I'm speaking of, especially, and I'm gonna blow a few minds with this. When we sexually perform ancient tantric rites, the sexual radiation of male and female souls interpolating during the time of sex is reenacting the original carriers of the souls. So that came down into this 3D reality before we even became human. So what I'm saying is, when you look in the skies and you see UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them today, light crafts, Merkavas, when you see these things in the sky, which I've seen many in my lifetime, you could be looking at someone who's performing. It could be somebody that's knowledgeable to perform these ancient tantric rites, which I will give you what the rites are in a minute. And sexually, when some people have sex, they're emitting this radiation in another dimension, because before we were male and female, our souls used to be androgynous, and sex is the reenactment of melding our souls back together. And when they were together, we were a light craft that came down here before we were split and was bound to Earth. Very advanced stuff now. I know
that this is some wow. I love this type of shit. Oh my God. Y'all hear this? Y'all here for this tonight? Oh, I'm loving this. Keep going. Wow. Oh, I live for this type of shit. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so when I'm speaking about the male and the female archetypes, we got to look into Jason and Medea. Jason and Medea is the whole story, is representative of that male and that female. And Jason and Medea's love quest during this whole venture to get the golden fleece is quintessential to the alchemy of what we're going through, because half of our soul is called the solar soul, Puruja, and half of our soul is called Prakriti, the lunar soul. So we're trying to combine the solar soul, the male aspect, with the lunar soul and converge it back into the original God. And I'm not speaking about the biblical creator. I'm speaking about the God that in Gnostic cosmology that created Sophia. It's called the monad, the one, because the biblical God created the physical plane from how we understand in Gnosticism. So we're going to go deep with it tonight. So let me give you an in-depth pre-description before the lecture of saying if someone's contemplating how a male and a female soul conversion can make a UFO in the sky, I'm gonna give an academic breakdown.
Oh man.
Let me give the academics to that so people don't call me crazy. All right.
Yeah, let's go.
To ground this in a more academic, rigorous framework, one can approach understanding the phenomenon, what I'm saying, comparative religion, metaphysical anthropology, quantum consciousness theory, and plasma physics. So these are the areas where we can look into. So across numerous esoteric traditions, particularly the Tantric Shivaism, Gnostic cosmology, and Egyptian Hermeticism, there exists a concept of the original androgynous soul, a primordial being in which the masculine and feminine principles were integrated within a single bioplasmic etherical form. So we weren't split. The thing that split us was the creator God of the physical, Yaldabaoth, Yahweh. All of the, they get into Yahweh and everything. And there is a positive side. Yahweh can be reflective of your higher self. When you look at it, a solar aspect of your higher self. But in general terms, in the cosmology, Yahweh literally would be the rendition of what Christians would call the devil. And I know I might scare some people saying that, or confuse people saying that. But if you look into Gnostic cosmology, the God that says he's jealous, he's only jealous because there's upper aeons, upper dimensions higher than him, and there's other gods. One of the gods is his mother called Sophia, and she has a mother called Barbello, which is the original whore that we get the word Babylon from. And then you have Dynamis and these other characters I don't need to get into right now. So bioplasmic etherical form, that's what we were before we were split into two and became male and female. This androgynous being was often described not only as spiritual, but as a luminous, mobile functioning as a subtle energy vehicle capable of traversing planes of existence. And let me give you some scholarship. There's a book by Dr. John Mumford, Ecstasy Through Tantra. I want all of you guys to get Dr. John Mumford, Ecstasy Through Tantra. In the book, he's going to say, I can't remember what page number, but he says that there's three forms of sex: recreational sex, procreational sex, and he names his new one. It's called meta sex. You ever heard of this before, Rich?
No.
Meta sex, he says that there is a way to, when you do the correct breathing, these tantric exercises, when you're having sex, it's kind of like what Bobby used to say, where the male has to send the energy down to get an orgasm. I mean, before he ejaculates, instead of releasing the spermatozoa, he's supposed to keep it in, and the female is supposed to be doing these breath exercises to help him get to the orgasmic level. Once the male reaches that orgasmic level, it unlocks this sexual radiation from both of the bodies, the auric field, and both of you will enter into this, he explains it like a rainbow kaleidoscope color realm. And he says at that point, you're in the ship, basically. You're in that original, that ship, a bliss state. The bliss state is where the Merkaba ship is, if you can get to the bliss state. So get a little bit off from that. So in tantric ritual, in the Kala and Kashmir Shaivite lineages, so I'm giving you where it comes from, the practice of Maithuna, Maithuna, called the sacred sexual union, is understood not merely as erotic mysticism, but as a ritual of the original cosmic polarity to return back to unity. When performed correctly, there becomes a precise psycho-spiritual alignment. This union produces scalar field, toroidal plasma flow, and localized alterations in consciousness in electromagnetic structures. That's what Dr. John Mumford was saying with the kaleidoscope of colors. The physiological and energetic effects of such tantric rites have been indirectly observed in biomedical and neurotheological studies, which record heightened gamma wave states biophotonic emission, and coherence between heart and brain rhythms during altered states of consciousness, meditation, and tantric practice. This comes from a book, or these authors, Rubik, 2002, Persinger, 2010, and McTaggart, 2007. From the vantage point of quantum consciousness theory, this is Hameroff and Penrose's model, it becomes plausible to interpret that these rituals that I'm speaking of as creating, these rituals create a micro environmental condition conducive to quantum entanglement and cross-dimensional coherence. In this context, the UAP phenomenon, often characterized by plasma fields, erratic motion, non-Newtonian maneuverability, and non-local temporal behavior, could be understood not solely as alien technology, but as externalized manifestations of non-ordinary states of consciousness, particularly those produced through high-intensity tantric syzygies. Look up this word called syzygy. So I just gave the evidence. So these, it says, what is this? It says non-local temporal behavior as externalized. So these non-ordinary states of consciousness becomes externalized manifestations. That's the key right there. Those are the UAPs. So this framework suggests that some observed UAPs may be aerial plasma residue or multidimensional shadows of consciousness generated fields, especially those initiated in advanced ritual practices. So these projections, once encoded into quantum vacuum or electromagnetic substrate, it could be visible to human perception as structured light anomalies mistaken for crafts, but in reality functioning as semiotic signatures of higher dimensional interactions. So the Hermetic text, Asclepius, for instance, he refers to a time when divine souls go through this process. They call it the aeonic vehicle of consciousness. Rather than classifying such interpretations as pseudoscience, we could accurately place them in a evolving discourse of conscious studies, non-local physics, and phenomenology of sacred ritual. That means fields increasingly open to transdisciplinary models that transcend reductionist materialism. So that means what I just told you, based on certain interactions with your woman or your man, on the right day astrologically, or if you know these Shaivite tantric rituals of the original cosmic union of Tantra, what sex was supposed to be, you might externalize a light craft in the sky.
Damn.
Now,
Shit.
if you have anything to ask or speak on, I'll continue. If not,
Man, I don't know. I can't, man. Listen, have y'all ever heard something that like, wow?
I
You know how
told you I had
sometimes, family, you know how sometimes you just hear the same thing over and over and over again. Then it comes a time where you hear some information that's like, it really just gets you thinking. This is one of them times where this is some information that just really got my mind going. I could come up with like, this right here is going to create 100 questions for the rest of the year from me, just based on what this brother just said. Somebody said, I got a question. Yeah, ask it when the brother's done. I'll get to a quick Q&A from the family, but yeah, just put it in the chat and I'll save it, and I'll ask later on. But yeah, let's. I don't want to interrupt your flow, brother. Keep going, my brother.
Okay, yeah. If we need to stop for questions, we can.
No, go ahead, man.
Okay,
No,
all right. So let's get back to what we speaking of. So the whole purpose of me telling you that is Jason and Medea on the ship. The Argonaut ship is the light craft I'm speaking of. Jason's union with Medea is the whole entire. It becomes the whole entire trip. It's about Jason and Medea. Medea is this powerful witch from forgot what region she's exactly. I'll read it in a second. So Jason is a solar seeker looking for the golden fleece. We just we clarified that Jason, Ja's son, the initiate of the Black Sun, a heroic navigator who leads a soul crew, the Argonauts, aboard the light craft Merkaba, which is called Argo, to retrieve the Golden Fleece, the symbol of divine inheritance and genetic light codes. So he has to descend, Jason has to descend into chaos through tests, through trials, so he can unify with Medea, which is a archetype of Sophia. So they both can ascend with the stolen light that mirrors the Christos and the Aeon's descent in the redemption narrative. So he fails at the end to honor the feminine wisdom of Medea, committing a spiritual betrayal, and some things end up happening to him I'll get into later. So the mystic Black consciousness, the Ja sun, is not merely the physical sun. We're speaking of the inner sun, as I said, which is called the Atman, the divine core that is veiled by ego and illusion. So the Black sun in esoteric traditions, it radiates from darkness, the womb of pre-creation, which is the melanogenesis. It's the symbol of our ancestors' solar power that's encoded in our melanin, seen as a biological receiver of cosmic light, seen as hidden within, shining through those who have been spiritually compressed by oppressive systems. So this is the hidden Sirius aspect, the star within the star. And in Jason's parallel, when he's looking for the Golden Fleece, it represents Ja's inner light, the Black Sun awakening. And the Argo ship is navigating through the etherical waters, guided by the Sirius star Sophis. And the Ja sun is said to rise, not in the east, but in the west is within. And the west means Osiris, and Osiris is within. He's the underworld, which are subconscious. So let's get into the second half. Okay, so we clarify, Jason is the archetype of the Black Sun. He's a redeemer. He's trying to sail through chaos, these oceans, not by fate, but to dominate and transcend and radiate through the transcendence. According to Peter Green's book, The Argonautica, came out in 1997. The Argonauts' journey is not simply heroic, but symbolic of interior transformation. The Argo is a microcosm of our soul that navigates the dangers of the unknown, which is the unconscious mind, and the divine, which is the gods, and the fates, which is called Moriah. Peter Green frames that their voyage is a proto-psychological. Wherever they encounter a test is a different inner faculty that we must experience: courage, restraint, trust, desire. One of the fates that becomes an inner faculty that they have to overcome. The Argonauts sail to some parts of Greece or something like that, and they come across these women called the Lemnian women. The Lemnian women represent the trial or temptation of our lusts. So we're confronting our lower passions and the temptation of our passions when he comes across these group of women. It's an island full of women. It's kind of like the story of what's the super Wonder Woman, a whole island of women and things of that. They were cursed by one of the goddesses. I can't remember. I think it was Athena. Athena cursed them to live on that island. So then they set sail from this Lemnian island and they come across the Clashing Rocks, which is this very, very small, narrow slope of rocks, and nobody ever passed through it. But one of the kings I think Medea told Jason, if you see a white dove in the sky, it's a sign that you will pass through this narrow of these rocks and you will be the first to do it. So they end up passing it, but the Clashing Rocks in a spiritual theme represents in our life facing the threshold or death or dissolution. The Argo must pass through crashing rocks which is impossible unless divine intuition intervenes. So this is a leap of faith that we have in our spiritual intelligence when we're going through things, when we're going through the abyss, like in the Kabbalistic tradition. And Medea, she represents divine love and the elemental forces. Medea is an aide who gives all of the Argonauts a magical protection. Sounds like our mother or our aunt. And the historians on this, they agree that Medea and Jason's marriage is mystical. The masculine hero must ally with a feminine gnosis, which represents something comparative to Sophia in the Gnostic text. So the quest is a tantric and alchemical journey, and Jason's success is dependent on his capacity to merge his soul with Medea harmoniously. Then they're confronted by Talos, the Crete giant. So Talos is this massive bronze robot-looking machine. So Talos is trying to keep them. He's guarding the island of Crete, and they need to go across Crete to get to Jason's the kingdom he was a part of before his half brother took his throne. Peleus took his throne. So what's stopping them from getting across Crete back to Jason's kingdom and him getting the crown, because he needs to bring the golden fleece back home, this big giant robot Talos come. And this is literally, Brother Rich, the first time we see something of robotics or AI in the ancient world ever. A lot of people don't talk about that. The Talos is like the first thing referenced in mythology to robots and the things of that aspect. So Medea ultimately tells him how to defeat Talos. He had to hit something in his ankle, and it drains something out of him called ichor, divine fluid. Could be comparative to melanin. But the Talos, as an esoteric interpretation, he's called the guardian of the threshold. This is symbol of false guardianship, like the archons in the Gnostic cosmology. So he needs to get through this entity who is a fusion of technology and divinity, a relic of pre-Olympian and Cretan Minoan religious systems. And this represents our resistance to change or our resistance to outside knowledge. Mm-hmm. So we have to get past these type of things for us to ascend to another level, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Once they get past Talos, so Crete is representative of the ancestral gateway back to the kingdom. Like I said, Crete was between the Argonauts and Jason getting back to get his crown with the golden fleece. Let me tell you a quick synopsis. Only reason Jason went to go get the golden fleece is because his brother took his throne. So the same thing, like somebody stealing your birthright, which happened to us here. And he took the throne, and the half brother of him told him, I will let you get the throne back if you do this impossible task, which is retrieve this golden fleece. But little did his half brother know that Jason was going to gather the best warriors from around the world, all of these people with these special abilities. So he completes the task. And now we're speaking about his return home to the kingdom. This is the trial of integration in our life when we go through exile. So the return is more chaotic. Our Argonauts nearly die of thirst once they get past Crete. They're confronted by hostile spirits. Authors say that this represents shadow work in our life. Following spiritual illumination, our soul must integrate back into parts of itself, including the failures, the betrayals, the losses. So Jason's betrayal of Medea later signifies the failure to honor the Sophia within, which is the common theme of Gnostic cosmology. So summarizing all of the details, the sea that the Argonauts set sail upon represents our descent into matter. The journey represents the testing of our inner faculties, lust, fear, pride, forgetfulness. The sacred union of masculine and femininity is representative by Jason and Medea. And the ascent to our divine inheritance is through the recovering of the golden fleece, which is the divine spark within us. And the integration of our shadow is how we return to our rulership over our reality. Now, the themes of Jason serving as a acronym. You hear by Bobby said this. Jason represents a chronological cipher: July, August, September, October, November. Do you know that these months are when a sacred gateway opens up to Sirius? Did you ever know that, Brother Rich? Through our consciousness. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Bobby.
called,
Yeah. Okay.
it's called the Sirius Rising, which opens a stargate to ancestral downloads.
Mhm.
So Jason is a initiate. You are Jason. We are Jason. We are an avatar of divine will, born of royal lineage, forgotten, separated from our throne. The journey of our life, it mirrors the fall of our soul from the pleroma and its path back into divine sovereignty. So Jason is not alone. He's just the head of the Argo, the soul vessel, manned by spiritual functions. Jason in astrology represents something called the Atma Karaka, the soul planet in Vedic astrology, in Yotish astrology. The Atma Karaka is the planet holding the highest degree in any sign in the natal chart. It represents the soul's mission, the challenges it faced, and the lessons of self-realization. So Jason symbolizes our Atma Karaka. My Atma Karaka is Rahu, Rich. Rahu is the north node, represents the head of the serpent. It can represent illusions. So I have to watch illusions through people and instances of my life, but it also means that I'm here to shatter illusions in the teachings of what I give. So there's a polarity in that. So Jason, as the Atma Karaka in understanding, is the soul hero moving through various dasha periods and karmic gateways. His journey is externalized, expressing the soul moving through the Navamsha chart, the D9 chart in your astrological charts, refining the spiritual purpose. The Argo, the ship within itself, is a divine construct, the Merkava, the soul, that the vehicle of the soul that allows us to access higher dimensional consciousness and lower dimensional consciousness, because you got these people out here that's low in mind. But so basically the Argo is the vessel of our soul, analogous to the Navamsa in our chart, which represents the inner life, the spiritual vows, and our dharmic destiny. Each Argonaut represents a planetary force or sub-Karaka, a soul fragment that accompanies Jason as the Atma Karaka. So the trials at sea reflect the soul moving through karmic waters, which is your Navamsa Rashi, which means specific planetary influences. So Orpheus, you'll see he represents the frequency, the Nada Yoga, sonic gnosis. Without Orpheus, they would have got lost when they came across the sirens when they were on the ship. Then you got Heracles, or Heracles. I think they call it Heracles. Same thing as Hercules. It's just another word. I don't know why I think it's Roman. Heracles is Roman and Hercules is Greek or something like that. But Hercules represents Mars, the fire trial, the brute force on the ship, sublimated through ritual. Medea represents Shakti. She's the witch queen. Sophia, Kundalini, secret wisdom. Then you have the twins, Castor and Pollux, represents Gemini, the syzygy. The dual forces harmonize. And Argus, the ship within itself, as we talked about earlier, represents the Ajna chakra, the divine architect of all of the etherical blueprints. So each of the Argonauts in Jason's mythos are understood as planetary emanations of grahas, symbolic forces operating within the soul's light body. So from a Vedic perspective, these figures are not merely heroic companions, but they're facets of the Atman's journey, each representing a distinct dasha, a chakra gate, a nakshatra intelligence within the unfolding of the karmic matrix. By the way, nakshatras are 27 star groups that the moon passes through in your astrology charts called sidereal astrology, each showing a part of your nature in your life path. The dashas are the time periods ruled by the planets that shape what happens in your life during certain years. The Atma Karaka is the planet that holds your soul's main lesson. The Navamsha chart that I explained is a deeper chart that shows your inner growth and spiritual purpose over time. By the way, I do Vedic astrological readings. If anyone's inquiring, we get deep into that on Patreon as well. So in essence, the Argonauts are not Jason's helpers. They are his grahas, his internal planetary embodiments, riding aboard the divine soul ship that charts a course back to wholeness in golden gnosis. So each trial that Jason will face will be a alchemical initiatory gateway of us experiencing how to reach higher consciousness. So going back to Orpheus, he represents Shatabisha Nakshatra. In Purva Rajapada, he's a tone sonic generator. That means he's comparable to Saturn as a mystic. His music is a mantra that keeps our soul, or music within itself. He represents music within itself, but it keeps our soul aligned across the chaos of the astral sea. So by you chanting a mantra, everyone, that's what keeps your soul at bay when you're going into trance and trying to reach higher consciousness in your spiritual work. Here, Heracles, which is Mars, Kritika, and Bharani, he's ready to burn karma. So that in your chart is speaking to burning karma and birth transformation through action. His presence represents the Manipura chakra's fire trial, where the ego must be tempered so we can acquire dharmic strength within us. Castor and Pollux, the divine twins, the duality of Gemini, represents mind and spirit, left and right brain, each ruled through Adra and Marigashira, which reflects the soul's need to integrate polarities and higher symmetry. Medea represents the true power behind the quest, the Kundalini Shakti herself manifested through the nakshatras Ashlesha and Jayeshya and Mula nakshatra. She carries the serpent wisdom of Tantra, the occult power of feminine sovereignty, and the ruthless ability to cut through illusion like K2 scythe. And to sum it up, each Argonaut reflects a graha or dasha period in Jason's soul journey, in your soul journey, and their combined effort symbolizes the inner council of forces that the Atman must harmonize. Their voyage across the astral waters mirrors the soul's transit through planetary configurations, and the entire myth can be read as a Mahadasha sequence, the unfolding of Yotish parables of the soul's ascent through fire, water, wind, and ether. And I have a little bit more, but I guess we can get it up in there. You want to open up for questions or?
Oh, I had it on mute. My fault. Yeah. I mean, wow. Yeah, we could definitely. I guess I got a couple of questions because I know you can't stay too long tonight. What time is it? 9:23. Couple of questions for you, my brother. Couple of questions for you, Annie. All right, let me ask you this. Let's do some. because I like where you took this, and I like just to think wild thoughts, not wild in a bad sense, but thoughts that expand your perception and thoughts the average person, whether they call themselves conscious or not, one thing. So I appreciate this slide presentation and what you brought to the channel tonight, and I advise everybody to definitely get a reading from the brother. The brother's a sharp researcher. So yeah, shout out to you with that, my brother. Definitely a gift.
Appreciate that.
Okay, let me ask you this, brother. Hold on. When you look in the mirror, say brother Ani or brother Rich is looking in the mirror. Is the mirror reflecting you, or are you reflecting the mirror?
When you look in the mirror,
the mirror's reflecting, you would say.
I would say that you are reflecting the mirror, because without you, does the mirror even exist?
Okay.
Because you, if we're pertaining in the physical sense, we're not really physical. We're spiritual, experiencing the physical, but through the spiritual, the physical is a medium to experience the mirror. So you are in the inside of you and not on the outside, and the mirror is on the outside and you're experiencing it from the inside.
All right. So the reason why I asked that is I want to analyze this axiom, as above, so below. Now it's longer, but for the most part, people usually just say that part: as above, so below, as above, so below, as above. You hear people say it all the time: as above, so below, as above, so below. I want to ask you, do you think? Because sometimes I wonder, and I'll ask you that mirror thing, because people might give different answers. Sometimes I wonder, is it a mistranslation, and should it really be as below, so above? Why do I say that?
I knew you were gonna say that.
I knew I was just it seems like it's a mistranslation. I'm gonna tell you why.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you why. To me personally, at least.
I know why.
When you get into this realm and you talked about the whole sex thing, it made me think about it. How that what we see is sexual radiation. I'm like, that sounds like as below, so above. I think that we get in a habit when we hear as above, so below, we analyze the skies, whether it's astrology, whether it's numerology, whether it's cardiology or these sciences, and we think these sciences control us instead of thinking we control these sciences. And the reason why we think these sciences create or control us is because we're looking at the universe as being more expansive than our universe. Then maybe our universe is more expansive and bigger than what we could see in the outer universe. So I'm looking at it like, well, people will say, well, these are the facts, brother. You're a Virgo, so you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. And I'm like, yeah, astrology and all of these sciences may just be programs that we are meant to override. Just like being a black man born in America, white supremacy is a fact, it's real, but I'm greater than it. But it was a program, a default program that I was born into and that I was meant to show my godhood against. So maybe just like white supremacy, I'm meant to show my godhood and show them that that's really not superior to who I am. Maybe that's what astrology, numerology, and all the sciences is as well. I'm meant to show that my godhood is greater than the sciences. And if that's the case, then it's as above, so below. What's your thoughts on that thought process, my brother?
All right now. So that's a lot. That was a whole lot now. So let's deal with the as below, so above aspect. So I completely concur. I think we get into these cliches. That's what we're speaking of, cliches. Because I used to hate the word energy. We use the energy so much. I started using effervescence. I started using other words, but it's explaining things and aspects to us in ways that we're not used to. We get too comfortable with these things. So saying as above, so below, we're getting comfortable, and we're not trying to pierce the veil and go deeper. The deeper aspect is what you're saying is really there's two type of karmas. Karma really means action. Right. That's all it means. Sanchita karma, and it's like parashada karma. That's like the karma like going on right now. Well, it's really 3 or 4, but I'm naming these 2. So Sanchita is like from your past life. Like people don't really believe in reincarnation, but we're spiritual people. We understand that some of us, we've been around these things before. Some of us are new souls. They ain't never been here before. And this other karma, based on the actions you made in your last life, is how when you come into the world, or how your face looks, how you're going to look according to the planets. Because astrology can explain why your nose, why our lips, why all of this looks like that. You can really literally explain that, and it's based on actions that took place in the past life. Now you're back to correct or to descend further into being in this wheel, what you call it, the Samkara wheel. We're still going around the wheel, you know. So yes, one thing I will preference: the underworld, or the metaphysics of what you're saying, what's below, is really inward. And even inward is really a shallow word. It's dimensional. Everything is dimensional, inward dimensional of reality. So nothing is really above or below, because this is a damn simulation anyway. So, I'm just saying, if we're going to call it a simulation, we got to call it all a simulation. You want to get down into it. But when you say white supremacy, Bobby used to say, he used to give a lot of stories of this. The white supremacists, not white people, but white people who feel like they're superior through the system that they created. These particular people who are in cahoots with the elite, who are literally running this world, who are in cahoots with even darker, more entities I can get into, like Sabatine, Frankist, all these other type of groups. These people are doing a job to bring the God out of us. But what if I told you that they were placed here through certain actions that their ancestors did in past lives, and we were placed here through actions our ancestors put in past lives, and everything that's at the top must come back down to the bottom in physics. So the reason why we're here today dealing with white supremacy is necessary, because we needed something. We created a narrative, and it's our story, by the way. Everything runs through our subconscious. There's a book by Robert Shapiro, ETs. It's called ETs, Space Races, and something else. In the book, he says, my white people, if you see a dark-skinned person today, thank them. Because without their subconscious, we would not exist. Robert Shapiro. Get the book. It's called ETs or something like that. And I'm not trying to, because they try to get into about black supremacy or something. This is something that goes way deeper in physics than what you can understand, because they know what melanin is, and they understand that melanin is this blueprint thing. Even when you're born, without melanin, melanin draws the neurotactics of your whole entire nervous system before you even come and become a fetus. It's like a pen. It's a spiritual pen that draws you. That was in Richard King's book.
KT told me that. You're right. Yeah, KT told me about that. That's deep.
I knew KT would know.
Yeah.
It literally draws your body like a pen. It drew so they know this thing. So basically, what I'm saying is that they're here to do a job to force us to become gods. So of course we got to deal with the bullshit, and I'm not trying to take away, what people have faced in white supremacy. What I'm trying to do is provide a different perspective of how you can evolve your consciousness and realize what it's here for. It's necessary for it to be here so we can become something that we've never become. So I don't really, I explain and show people how racism blatantly in America keeps us locked out of economic wealth in our community. But I also show spiritually how these occurrences sometimes are necessary for us to find a new drive within ourselves to create opportunities that we didn't even know that we have. We got a brother right now, a brother named Julian Brown. He's turning plastic into energy.
I seen it. You posted it, right? I think you posted it.
I posted another brother. This brother just created a plasma weapon. Created a plasma. DARPA might be knocking on, but these things, that's $1 billion industry that these brothers just created. Now, this is from us being under white supremacy. You know, pressure in melanin makes diamonds. When you put oil under the ground over millions of years, when the ground compresses oil, that's what forms diamonds. A lot of people don't know where diamonds comes from crude oil, melanin, carbon. So the more pressure that we're under in this country or across the world, the whole diaspora, but this country is like the main battlefield, so to speak. The more pressure that we're put under, some of us are going to create on levels that's beyond perception of what these people can fathom. And you're seeing it now with them brothers. They're basically techno alchemists, you know?
Wow. Let me ask you this. Like I said, that section you dropped on UFOs being a remnant of sexual radiation that we create when we get together and perform some tantra sexually. That was like, wow, that was deep. And I thought immediately, if that could create a beautiful mothership that we may see in the sky, do you think something like, let's say like us watching porn and somebody masturbating to porn, do you think that can create a radiation like a demon or evil entity that somebody might see? This incomplete entity, this aborted entity that somebody might see and be like, what the hell is that thing? Can that be a reflection of somebody engaging in lower sexual activities?
Definitely. They're called, there's a book on it. What's it called? Every time you have sex or you ejaculate or women orgasm without means of procreation, recreationally, you create these spirit kids. And these spirit kids are pretty much these residue shadow of plasma. Now, I'm not sure if it becomes externalized visually. I have to look into the physics of it. If that could happen. I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, but because it specifically said that it needs the radiation of the man and the woman. So I'm not sure if masturbation can make that happen. It needs to be Shiva, the phallus, or the linga, and Shakti, the vulva coming together, the yoni, to generate this. I'm not sure, but I will say it leaves behind residue, and the residue of these spirit kids stick around the parameter of your auric field. So people who ejaculate multiple times a day, you're generating too much of this shadow residue of non-procreational energy, and it's affecting the karma around you. Because Venus, Shukra Venus regulates all of that pretty much. So we would have to look into one, if someone came to me with that, if they had a problem with masturbation, I would have to look in their chart to see what placements they have in their houses that's making them overly sexual, where they can't wait till they go get another person and do it, the proper way. And even if you got another person, if you out here overdoing it with these people, because the exchange of energy is very critical. Who you exchange your energy with affects your karma. want you guys to understand this.
Yeah,
So all of the new divine
the divine holes.
Hey, Bobby said that's the best you can get now. Bobby said, hey, you go get one of these sisters that used to be hoes, that don't be conscious. Well, you really cooking with gas.
Oh, man.
I would encourage people to find a person, but the content creators now with this thing, realize if you're having a lot of bodies in an exchange of these fluids, there's a lot of karma in it that's going to affect your destiny and your path.
Dude, I think that's very vital that a lot of brothers don't take into consideration. And when you see brothers who are successful and have peace of mind, there's a definite pattern going on there. And I think we need to examine those patterns and see that these brothers live a very disciplined lifestyle. So I think that's something that we definitely need to pay attention to. You know, you mentioned the electric universe. I think you referenced the electric universe earlier. You seen the page of Thunderbolts? Them guys, they call themselves Thunderbolts, something like that, where they talk about how they say according to the electric universe theory, Saturn used to be the sun.
Yeah.
Of what you think? Is Saturn used to be the sun to planet Earth?
Yes, and my bad. I think we got a thunderstorm outside. So if I go out, it's the dang rain outside because you was going in and out. But if I heard the question, you was asking about the sun. It was a purple sun.
Yeah, they said according to the electric universe theory on that page, Thunderbolts. I forgot the rest of their name. They say Saturn used to be our main sun. The sun we see in the sky now, that used to be Saturn, and it gave a purplish hue off on the planet, and things were much different then.
And it actually looked like the eye out of Lord of the Rings in the sky. Now we still had our sun. Let's make no mistake about it. It's just we were able to see Saturn. Okay. Saturn was very, very visual, and it was like an eye in our sky, and its radiation overpowered the sun's radiation. And so there was a period of time where we could see these cymatic beings out in the sky visually, like Venus. Venus was seen for centuries as a diamond in the sky. You'll hear Rihanna's song "Shining Like a Diamond" in the sky. They're speaking about Venus. Even the stuff going on with the Diddy thing is connected through Venus. When he got arrested, was in his Venus return. One of the main placements of Cassie was in, I think it was in Chitra, which is connected to Venus. So it's a Venusian energy, but Venus means to shine. And if you think about it, in the case, they were talking about putting on baby oil. She had to put on a lot of baby oil to shine, but that's Venus shining. It's Venus, because in the sky, that's what Venus was called, the shining one. And later Lucifer is called the light bearer or the shining one. So all of these, so visually in the sky, in the electric universe model, it can explain the dynamics of our cosmology better than any of these other astrophysicists is describing it. Because if you don't go back to plasma and understanding the universe, then you're not really going to get the real detail. Plasma isn't a fourth or fifth form of matter. Plasma is the first form of matter, and 99% of the universe is plasma, and we are the 0% of the universe that isn't in plasmic form in its entirety. So we're a spectacle. And there's some people are saying, researchers are saying that's why aliens, or they try to bring the alien. I don't really so sure. I believe it's more egregores, but they try to say ETs and stuff are more interested in our planet because of us being that spectacle of not being a part of that 99%. They're like, well, how do they generate this much energy if they're not pure plasma? And that's probably why visitations are connected to it and all of that. Who knows? But
so you don't get with the whole Greys, Anunnaki, or the Who else are there? The y'all know the Pleiades. So you don't think none of those?
That don't. I mean, listen. I got a video called The Reptilian Myth.
Mhm.
I got another. I just did an interview on Beyond the Forbidden TV.
Mhm.
Another guy. I want you guys, if you really want to know what I think about grays and aliens and that aspect, it came from a egregore magically. So we got to understand what exactly the egregores is. We got to understand what the Black Lodge is, and how did these things become bug-eyed, big, knuckle-headed beings and stuff like that. Because out of all the forms that aliens can take, you really got to think about this, Brother Rich. Why would they take on a humanoid form? What is the odds of aliens taking on humanoid forms? They could be amoebic, they could be anything, but what they wanted to draw is these beings that look just like us, but all they got is some big heads and big eyes. As far as the Pleiadians and the Galactic Confederation, who created that mythos? Who, we know Ptolemy named most of the constellations. So the word Draco does, the people don't even know. Ptolemy started naming the constellations incorrectly. It was supposed to be based on the Greek alphabet, which I think is 22 or 24 letters, whatever how many letters it is. But he started to create, even after, you were supposed to repeat it after you get to the end of the alphabet. He started just naming things. The Draco constellation was supposed to be called Herculi. It wasn't even supposed to be called, if you looked at it in its correct order of what it was supposed to be called that. So what I'm saying is that whoever created the mythos of the Galactic Federation, which I know who it is connected to the Sabbatean Frankists, and is connected to the Black Lodge, some of these other people. They paid a couple of people early, writers, authors, to write about these things. And they wanted to get a resurgence of people getting interested in it. And then they start to paint these things as humans now. Like the Pleiadians are blonde-haired humans. So I'm thinking to myself, like, so what are we saying here? Are we saying that the only star race that's referred in the Galactic Confederation are blonde-haired white people? I didn't see a depiction of any other people. I didn't see the Asians. I didn't see, there's a lot of people in the world. So nobody really questions these things. Who created the Galactic Confederation? Do you know who created them, Brother Rich?
No, I don't. No.
So this is my point with it. Like, where are these things coming from? Why are we honing in on these things so much? And like we said earlier, clichéism. We're comfortable in the spiritual community recognizing certain archetypes of how to look at things. I don't believe in none of that. I tore my mind down from any clichéism. I want to absorb some of perspectives that some of these new brothers are talking about, but I also want to keep an open mind to research and look into it myself. And I advise for everybody else to do it as well.
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the term ultra-terrestrials?
Yes. Kenneth Grant is probably the best scholarship that you can get with ultra-terrestrials. Definitely.
So I think from what I understand, from what Brother Sharif was telling me, was that ultra-terrestrials is more about an advanced civilization. Say we was advanced in this realm, and we decided to travel the stars. We knew we had technology to travel in the cosmos. Now, once you travel in the cosmos, you see the movie Interstellar.
Yes.
Time changes. So let's say we in the cosmos for, let's say, 10 years. By the time we come back to planet Earth, 5,000 years then went by from being in space for 10 years. So now we come back to Earth. Shit is all fucked up. They look, we flying in ships. They looking at us like we gods. They're like, I never seen nothing like this. And we can't tell. And we're trying to tell them we come from that planet, but they're so scared of us because of how we look, our how advanced we are, that they just assume like we're this divine, godlike being, not knowing that we are their ancestors. We were done before they fell. And I think I'm describing it right. I don't want to chop up the story, but what's your thoughts about just that whole concept of that possibly
That
happening?
concept is the same thing that the same authors that wrote that concept. Even Jason Giorgiani put that concept back out, another philosopher who's a part of the one of those neo-Nazi movements. But he has great literature and understanding hyper dimensional realities. And I like his research on that end. But he's saying the same thing, that these ultra terrestrials, these hyper terrestrial beings came back, and they're from the future, and they came back in time, and they created a breakaway civilization in Antarctica, and they're living in Antarctica. That's why they're keeping us out, and that the world governments are meeting with them and exchanging that technology and stuff. I don't believe none of that stuff. I think that it's all based in consciousness. The technology is coming from entities that's tied to the ego of this universe. God in the Bible, the creator, is the ego of this universe. They never give you none of the feminine archetypes, that manifest in the original Trinity. They never give you none of these things. These feminine archetypes is pertaining to the realms of chaos before the physical dimension, which is nothing. So speaking when I say chaos, you close your eyes and you try to remember something, then you say, I got it now. That when you're going through the blackness trying to remember, like I've been doing on this podcast a couple times, when I'm trying to remember, I'm going into the chaos of the mind, and I'm bringing it into order. I'm manifesting it. That realm of chaos, there's a primordial version of that beyond me. That's when this feminine or this androgynous higher planes are. They're dissecting and they're cutting that off. They're keeping us away from that information, where it's called theatology, the study of the goddesses and all of these other things. And I'm not trying to make it matrilineal centric, like it's all about the females. I'm speaking in dimensional wise when it pertains to ultra terrestrialism. We have to look at this thing as not just physical, that these people are meeting up on Antarctica with these people. You can literally vibrate your mind into another dimension. Anybody that ever did psychedelics, ayahuasca, and other things, that you're not in the containment of consciousness within this world, this 3D reality. You're somewhere else. There's ways to access even other dimensions than what you experience with psychedelics. These people have figured out ancient mysteries, even created technologies, because you got the Hemi-Sync machine. I don't know if you ever heard of that, where all these different people are going to the Hemi-Sync and putting on the binaural thing, and they're using the machine to take their consciousness to a new level. So what I'm saying is the ultra terrestrialism, from what Kenneth Grant described, is a radiation coming from consciousness of beings. We're the portals. See, they keep trying to get it to look. They keep trying to create these things to get us to look outside of ourselves for where these things are. I literally came in contact with the ancient Lemurian before, taking Changa, tapping into my shaman soul. The shaman soul, some of the ancient Native Americans spoke about. They figured out which stars to escape reincarnation through by using the plants, the plant medicine. the plants would give them, they say the plants would talk, but it would give them the messages. And when they looked, they drew a map of the constellations that said, this is where we escape through, based on taking the different psychedelic medicines. And they would take it on a regular. So they're vibrating. Now, I'm not trying to push that psychedelics is the only way you can attain it, because psychedelics ain't doing nothing but activating something specific within you. There's mantras. There's we got something. Look at, you guys should pull up the lattice cobweb tunnel spiral. Blow that up and put it in your room. Then put a temple in there, or a mound, or something that's archetypal to your liking next beside, and you need to blow it up so it's visual. And start doing psychoacoustic yoga sessions using different. We're studying Leia yoga right now, how to completely dissolve material reality and in the cycle of reincarnation. Is something it's not talked about a lot in the different yogas and these as it's called Leia yoga, if you guys want to research it. But do these different yoga exercises, these different pranic breath techniques, study that, stare into the lattice cobweb tunnel spiral, and go to sleep that night. Well, first you got to learn how to visualize certain colors. Specific colors opens the consciousness to direct communication of spirits and other dimensional realities. Then go to sleep that night and tell me what you see.
Wow.
These things will affect your consciousness so much, it will planetarily affect it. Also, burning suffragations, burning incense, like we talked about with the candle magic, also affects your consciousness. Each incense is connected to a planet as well. All of these things can get you in contact with what we're saying, ultra terrestrial consciousness, more than waiting for something to come out of Antarctica, or for you to find a way to get a ship to Antarctica or something like that to figure out if the gray aliens live down there.
What you think? You talked about the DMT. What you think the tobacco? We know the people in America's mess with that heavy. What's that
Hape?
to?
Yeah, well, the only one I know about mainly is Hape. Hape is really good. It's like a tobacco snuff type of medicine, and you can somebody administer it through a caripe. It's called caripe pipe. I've done that at times, or you can get your own caripe pipe and you can administer it to yourself as well. And it hurts sometimes when you take it. It hurts your head, because that's your pineal gland opening. Matter of fact, rest in power to Mother Oshun Dara Nefertiti. That was one of Bobby's psychics back in the day, but she was a very highly ordained psychic. She told me what clothes I had on, what color of cars was outside of my job one time, and who my grandmother was. she was like, why you never ask for a reading? But anyways, she was speaking about Hape opened her astral mind up back to when she was like 20. So she was able to give readings on a much higher level than she ever did, just by taking Hape.
Wow, very interesting. So, real quick, what did this ancient Lemurian entity that you encountered? What did it say to you, brother? You can't just go by that. You got to tell us, man.
Man, let me tell you
What
something.
was that encounter like?
I explained this on a video a while back. I would like to explain it on the level I did. It was like a light. It's like a beam of light. First of all, it took me and it showed me. It was like a psycho pump. It took me places and was speaking to me telepathically, but it spoke to me. It vibrated every cell in my body. Every cell in my body was vibrating to a point where it felt like my cells was talking to me. I don't want to scare nobody with this. So it felt like my cells had mouths and they were speaking at once. But then it told, I ain't gonna get that to a detail, but it showed me over a house. It was some type of shadow being, and the shadow being had tentacles over every house in my neighborhood, sucking souls out of the house. Kind of like that thing off of Stranger Things, the Mind Flayer. It looked like that. It looked kind of like that. It was sucking souls out the house. That's one experience it took me to. Then it showed me this alternative dimension where light was a syntax language. It looked like the melting of ice coming over my eyes, but it was light. And every time the light would flash, it would give me telepathic messages through imagine if light was a language.
Yeah.
And I gave it more detail, but it was so powerful that when I came out of it, it changed me forever. It changed me, and I don't even do psychedelics unless it's the right transit or Navamsha in my chart. I don't even do it no more because I want to respect it if I ever can meet something like that again. It was a female, by the way. It was a melanated female, and imagine a being like that walking you through these dimensions. Most beautiful experience I ever had, life-changing experience I've had.
How did the female look?
It looked, from what I remember, her hair was braided upward. It looked like it was, her hair was like going towards she had long hair, but the hair was braided upward. It didn't look like how we do our hair. It looked almost, so her body was holographic. It wasn't really fully physical. It seems like, you're in your mind experiencing this thing, and an hour goes by within a minute in these type of sessions. So I'm there, and I know I spent a lot of time with her, but I can't remember distinctively what she had on. But I remember that her hair was braided and upward, was to the sky. That's what I remember distinctively.
I keep hearing you brothers like yourself, Bobby, and a lot of other brothers talk about, and sisters talk about, a time when Earth wasn't fully physical, and it was like, half spiritual, half physical. And as Arcia talks about it, and as we fell in vibration, we became more and more physical. What civilization would you say was the first physical civilization? Like, oh shit, we really physical now. We lost our superpowers. Like, if you see a movie and Superman, whoever loses his superpowers, and they look and the shit don't work no more, what civilization would you say, or time period, when did that happen to us?
Civilization, that's hard to say. I know recently I've been doing different mantric exercises. I was restudying the Kabbalah and how to go up the ladder of lights. And I ended up in a dream, and I told my audience this. I think I went back to the primordial forest of where all of our ancestors were on this land.
Yeah.
Like a primordial forest way at the beginning of the time of when this shit happened. And I was speaking about coming across the different ancestors in detail. But as far as civilization, I would say probably Atlantis is the closest thing, which is a form of, I think it is a form of Lemuria. I think Atlantis is more of the encoded frequency signature that these people together was on, and the landscape was Lemuria. It wasn't super Pangea, but there were connected continents that's not connected today. There was tectonic shifting of the plates, irregular to how we see it today. And I believe that these people spoke telepathically. Look into the 7 root races. I think that there was a time where these people didn't even have full bodies. They had something called the pudding bag body, where you only could see from the torso up, and you could see literally the pineal gland hanging in a holographic, what do they call it, like a phantasmic veil before it's completely physical. You can see the pineal gland of another person. Instead of looking at their face, you're looking at their pineal gland.
Damn.
That was a time frame where we existed on this earth, and it wasn't fully physical at all. Nothing was physical. It was more crystals than physical, I believe. It was a bunch of crystals at first, crystals in nature, before it just became flat or mound like land.
All right, I'm gonna get to a couple of questions. We about to hit the 2-hour mark. I got to get out of here. I'm gonna do about two questions from the family. Shout out to Little Brown Village who sent the donation. I appreciate it, my brother.
Oh, that's my brother. Shout out to the God.
Appreciate the donation, my brother. Appreciate it. This one was asked earlier. How can we reclaim our inheritances? I guess spiritual, physical, whatever. How can we reclaim these, my brother?
How can we reclaim our inheritance? Well, first you have to understand what you is first.
Yeah.
So for the inheritance, inheriting something is understanding where exactly are you in your life, and how are you going to change the trajectory of your perspective to reclaim your inheritance. A lot of times people get in a rut of trying to figure out what they're going to do or where they're going to go to get to the next level of their thinking, but they don't change anything about what they're doing. The first thing I would tell you to do, if you want to reclaim, if we're going to be reclaiming inheritance, if he's speaking or they're speaking in general, like on his land or specifically in their family, the first thing you have to do is to change the way that you're thinking right now if you haven't reclaimed it yet. And how do you change something? You have to do something the next day. You have to eliminate something the next day that you do that doesn't serve you.
There you go. Come on.
If you eliminate one thing from that day that doesn't serve you, and you continue that pattern, this life is all about patterns. The universe, the planets, everything we talk about is patterns. So establishing a new pattern will get you to a point where you can reclaim whatever you're desiring.
Indeed. All right. Let's get to another. Hold on, y'all. Give me a second. What are some powerful mantras?
There's a lot of different mantras. So powerful, it depends on their planetary effects of which mantra pertains planetarily to it. So I would ask the person, which I know I can't, but I do the Omni Gura. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Okay.
So people can repeat this. And I got this from Eileen Bay. This is a Washatwa. A Washatwa mantra that I got from Eileen Bay. This is one of the main ones I do. But to say what are some powerful ones is depending on what you're working with. What are you trying to work towards? You know, what exactly is the reason you're using? Don't just use mantras, family, just to do it. You gotta have your attention, and it has to be planetarily reflective. There can be karmic effects of doing certain mantras without understanding why you're using it, and you don't want to be connected to those karmic effects. So make sure you discern what's the reason why you're going to use the mantra. What is the planetary influences of the mantra, and what's in your house, in your chart, what planet is debilitated and needs to be repaired, because some planets could be in a placement where you don't even need to do that damn mantra. It may be, see, that's the thing about it. Just like when I talked to Dr. Angel Green, some crystals people use give too much energy, and they don't need that crystal right now. Some different crystals do different things, just like different mantras do different things. So when you some people love getting the quartz crystal that increases whatever energy is around at that time, but it also can increase negative energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're waving around your crystal and you didn't know the distinct functionality of it. You're increasing entropy in what you are, and that can be effective towards you. I don't know why this thing is popping up. Hold on.
Okay. Shout out to everybody who stayed the whole 2 hours. We started out the show with a clip from Bobby. If you came in late, because I see we got about 1,800 people. A lot of y'all came in late. Start the show from the beginning. And the whole 2 hours has been action-packed, family. So make sure y'all see this one again from beginning to end. Go ahead, brother.
There's Om Ha Bagura Pita Set Me Om. Om Ha Bagura Paguru Pima Seti Om. Say that over and over. But like I said, you're supposed to know what you're trying to, what planet is debilitated. So you have to burn certain incense depending on the planets. You got to know what transits your chart is in, like the houses that your planets is in around that time. And you have to know what you're repairing, what planets need to be repaired, and things of that aspect before you just start doing mantras just to do it. So they can get a consultation to help with that. I can go a little bit more explanative at startribe777@gmail.com. That's startribe777@gmail.com. Or they can just hit me up, reach me through Instagram, the Spiritual Shade Room, or Facebook, Ani Osaru. And make sure you guys follow my YouTube, Ani Osaru, as well.
Indeed, indeed. Shout out to King Simon. He's in the chat posting links to the brother. So make sure you click on the links that my brother King Simon is posting. There was one more that I seen. Last one, family, that I want to ask this brother. Where is that at? It's from one of my regulars. One of the regulars who be in the chat. Give me 1 second, Ani.
Okay, take your time. Take your time.
Yeah, I wanna.
I'm kicking.
You got this chat popping in here tonight. All right. All right. Yeah, we're gonna end the show with this question. When you spoke about metasex, for one to access this state, it almost seems like a divine purpose need. So if I'm not in a relationship where my partner doesn't resonate, should I find someone who does?
So to access this state, definitely you need to be aligned, because she needs to know her intention. And that's good he asked this question, because on my Patreon this week, I'm about to go through a tantric class. Look into a new TV series called The Mayfair Witches. Got the melanated guy in there, and it's a white family, but they got different melanated people in the family, different Black Americans in the family in Louisiana. Speaking of the whole Nottoway plantation whole thing, right in Louisiana, and the entity attached to the family has sex with all of the Mayfair women, but is a topa. So we're going to cover specifically those tantric exercises. I'm going to debunk some of the sexual abstinence myths around men and their sexual retention, and get that refined so people can understand that better. And then I'll cover the aspect of that light craft, go a little bit more in depth, and explain some of those tantric rites a little bit better, the Shaivite tantric rites in the tradition, so people can understand and start practicing with their significant others. But yeah, to answer the question, yeah, you need to find somebody that's on that frequency, brother. If she ain't with it, you got to find, you got to go out there and find something.
I think that's probably the scariest thing, bro, for people who call themselves spiritual. When you get down to it, it keeps going back to this love between the black man and the black woman. No matter how far we go out in the cosmos and how many books we read, masonry, that shit always comes back to the love between. So what's scary is damn near nobody's in love no more. They ain't even no love music on the radio no more. So my question to you is, when it comes to the Tantra and reaching the state and producing these UFOs in the sky, when you fuck it, for lack of better words, is it about alignment? Like, let's say, all right, we got a purpose. I'm conscious, you conscious. We got some information, or is it about love? Where, goddamn, I love you, baby. You my heart and soul. Let's do this thing. So is it about alignment or is it about love? What produces this Christ energy, this thing that we keep talking about that people are fearful for because they feel like they can't attain it from lack of a mate?
I think love, it increases the magnetism and the fluidity of the chemistry and the alchemical expression that you're making through it. But we got to disseminate the difference between love and kama, K-A-M-A, not karma, desire. So if you're really in love, I think it increased the magnification of it. But you can definitely still do these practices without love. Love is just something that syncretizes and makes the alchemy that much better. And I think it becomes more natural. Maybe the experience or the length of being on the ship in that rainbow state of the kaleidoscope is almost feeling like you're taking a psychedelic, a bliss state, is probably longer in length if you're in love. But you can also enter these states, and if you're both masters of your frequencies, if you're not in love but you're trying to experience higher consciousness, there's things, there's planets in her, there's planets in you, and if it's at the right time, you're gonna make that thing go, baby.
All right. There you have it, family. What a show tonight. What a show. We just hit the 2-hour mark. I want to thank this brother, the American God, Ani Osaru, for being on the show tonight, brother. Oh man, you dropped it. I'm so glad I hit you up yesterday and told you about this Bobby video, and you like, man, I done seen every Bobby video out there. So man, yeah, you cooked us up a meal tonight. We appreciate it. Make sure you support this brother. Hit up his Patreon, his YouTube, his Instagram, his email, Star Tribe 777. Like I said, King Simon is posting the information in the chat. With that being said, thank you, my brother. Any last words before we get out of here?
Nah, you guys go and be blessed. I appreciate everything on the platform, brother. I can't wait to be back on there.
Indeed. Everybody have a good night. Thank you, my brother. Peace and blessings. Peace, family.